Good morning, everybody. Hello and welcome to this morning's webinar. My name's Peter Czapp. I'm one of the directors here at the Wow Company. We're an accountancy practice that works with hundreds of agencies. And every year we survey agencies across the country to find out what you guys are up to. Every year the results are really interesting. And today I'll be taking you through what the 2015 results mean for your agency. I'll be sharing some additional analysis, including some stats that haven't been included in the original report, and also be sharing what our top performing clients do when it comes to growing their agencies quicker. In terms of where we start, just before we do that, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who took part in this survey. Nearly 300 people took the time out of their days to help create these results. And this benchmark data is really, really interesting. So thank you for taking the time out to do that. Also wanted to thank our partners. These guys did an amazing job of spreading the word about the survey. A huge thank you to Constant Contacts. They do fantastic email marketing solutions. We use them at Wow. If that's something you're considering for your clients and your agency, definitely recommend you get in touch. The wonderful guys at Beamer, who actually came top of the poll this year when it came to where the cool agencies hang out. If you've not been to a Beamer event, highly recommend it. They're definitely worth going to. Wirehive, a hosting company. Quite frankly, really the only hosting company you should be talking to. Do a fantastic job, work with a number of our clients. I also host a wonderful award ceremony as well for the top 100 agencies outside of London in the south. So if you fall into that category, I definitely recommend you get in touch with Wirehive. Solutions for Recruitment last year topped our poll of the top recruiters for agencies. So again, it's a good person to know. Our friends at Agency Collective did a fantastic job of spreading the word. What those guys do is provide quarterly dinners, insight support for ambitious agency owners, all focused on helping them grow quicker. The IPA are doing something very interesting with our results, actually. We've shared the raw data with them anonymously, and they'll be collating regional analysis, which will be published in the next month or two, so keep an eye out for that. Our friends at Streamtime, we've known them for a while. They help a number of our clients with improving profitability through their studio management software. So if you're looking to make more profit in your agency and make your projects more streamlined, then I definitely recommend a chat to the guys at Streamtime. So big thank you to everyone who took part and to our partners. So what have you guys been up to? Well, it was a question we asked in our survey. We actually said what your plans were we asked what your plans were for 2015, and this is what you said. Now, I'm not going to go through each of these in detail, but there were a few that stood out for me that I wanted to chat about. The first one is really interesting. 68% are planning on recruiting in 2015. If you were sat there thinking, crikey, it's tough enough to hire great talent, well, it's just going to get a whole lot tougher in 2015 because so many agencies are doing it. So last year in the survey, we spent a lot of time looking at this and came up with a number of suggestions, or you guys who answered the survey came up with a number of suggestions for how agencies can do recruitment better. I think the key takeaway from that was, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a strategy for recruitment. If you're just relying on kind of panic recruiting when you suddenly win a project, it simply won't be good enough. You won't get the results you need in 2015. One of our clients described it as, they're always recruiting constantly, even when they don't need it. They're having interviews speculatively. They keep a recruitment database of contact details, because when they win that big job, they then know who they can go to. They can fire off half a dozen emails and they know they can hire the great talent. If you're not doing that all the time, if you're not building relationships with schools and colleges and universities, if you don't have a great relationship with a recruitment agent, then it's going to be panic stations when you get that big deal. So always recruiting is a good thing to do. Increased marketing spend. Well, we see a lot of agencies planning on doing that this year, and I'm not surprised. It reflects a real confidence in the marketplace. What I would suggest with that is, find someone else to do your marketing. Agencies are brilliant at doing marketing for other people. Find it a little bit of a challenge occasionally doing marketing for themselves. And if you have someone in house, you think, well, we'll get that person over there to do our own marketing. They can spend a day a week. Trust me, it won't work. They'll get sucked into other projects. You'll get caught in this trap of being busy and then not doing any marketing. and then suddenly having an empty sales pipeline, and then you kind of got to start from scratch. So if you've invested some money with someone externally, that's going to really help keep the momentum going. Even when you're busy, that's when you need to be marketing too. Price increases, one of my favorite topics. I'll be talking a lot more about that later. There's lots of innovation going on. If you look at, nearly half of agencies are planning on launching a new product or service, and a lot of collaboration as well. I think agencies are almost unique in terms of a profession where there's so much collaboration going on, so many strategic alliances and partnerships. There's almost no such thing as competition with agencies these days, and we see increasingly our clients working together on projects, sometimes even pitching together. Understand people picking up opportunities and saying, well, look, we could kind of blag it, we could kind of pitch for this, but actually, look, we're really good at this bit. We're really good at the design. We need someone coming in on the social, or someone to come in the build of the website, or the strategy bit. We'll take care of this bit, you take care of that bit. And by presenting sort of together a united front, two specialists working together, it creates a much stronger proposition. And we've seen lots of partnerships form. I've watched it over the last 18 months at Agency Collective. Every dinner I watch the relationships forming. I hear stories about deals that have been won, and it's really cool to see. Just going to skip one here. The overseas work from the current location, that's pretty high. That's more than it's ever been over the few years that we've been running these surveys. More and more agencies are going over to China and making a big impact, simply because they can't get the talent, the creative talent, the heritage that we have over here. If you scroll down looking at the bottom, 8% of agencies opening an office overseas. Wow, that's a lot. And I guess by asking this question, I wanted to get everyone thinking about what you were going to do differently in 2015 to grow quicker. I often ask people, I say, what are your plans for this year? And they say, yeah, we've got big plans. And I say, well, how are you going to do it? What are you going to do differently? And it sounds like they're trying to do more of the same stuff. And if you do more of the same stuff, you'll get broadly the same results. What could you do differently in 2015 to make a massive impact for your agency? Might be something on this list. It might be something else. So, something to think about there. Now, I had a lot of choice when it came to trying to decide what on earth to talk about today. There was just so much data, so many interesting statistics to cover off. And what I decided to do was to focus on profit. And the reason I focused on profit in today's webinar was because it can be quite elusive. It can be something that just seems to be there 1 minute and then it just flies away. And what I've always been fascinated about is, the difference between agencies that make a load of money and those that don't. And I chat to agencies all the time, and some of them do some amazing work, but really struggle to make money. And yet other guys seem to just have the knack of it. They know how to turn that creativity into profit. There is absolutely a science to this, and I want to share with you some of the things that our top performing clients do when it comes to ensuring that their profit doesn't fly away. This slide you'd have probably seen in the benchmark report. We asked how much profit agencies are making. I guess the first thing to say that is if you're in that 18% who don't know how much net profit you're making, please, for goodness sake, get that sorted pretty quickly. I'm a great believer that you've got to have financial information at your fingertips. You have to be able to have that information in order to make good business decisions. So if you can't, produce a set of management accounts within a few weeks of the month end, then something's wrong. And certainly if you don't know your net profit percentage, wow, you need to get that fixed. In terms of the other answers here, I want you to think about where you sit as an agency. What percentage do you fall into? And throughout this webinar, I want you to think about how you can move up to the next level. I'd love it if next year, when you answer this survey, you were able to move up to the next level. And I'm going to take you through a few things that I think will help. So some thoughts about profit. Well, I guess the first question is, and you'd be perfectly entitled to ask it, is, why bother with profit? Well, it's quite simple. If you are planning on selling your agency, and I know many of you are, then profit, so EBIT, earnings before interest and tax, is going to be pretty much the key determinant of how big that check is at the end of the day. So the way agencies are valued, it's going to be your profit figure times by a multiplier, which can be affected by a number of factors. But you need to be making profit and good profits. Now, if you're not selling your agency, or if selling it is so far away you can't even comprehend it right now, well, it's still important to be making profits. If you describe your business as a lifestyle business, well, more profit equals better lifestyle. So it's a really important habit to get into. And that starts with knowing your numbers. It starts with knowing what your profit is. And then really getting into the habit of not just measuring it, but looking for ways to increase it. For those in the early stage of agency, there is a trade-off. There is absolutely a trade-off between profitability and growth. I see so many small agencies, particularly those, sub $1 million turnover, finding it really challenging in the early days because they're hiring, because they're investing in systems and technology and office space and all of this stuff, this infrastructure. There is a trade-off with profitability. However, I heard someone say the other day something which made me chuckle. Well, it made me sad, actually. They said, agencies don't make money in the first 3 years, do they? And I kind of thought, well, if you go into this with that attitude of not planning on making money in the first 3 years, well, guess what? You're not going to make any money in the first 3 years. So, for sure, those early days, it's hard. But I do know plenty of agencies who are making really good money in their first 3 years because they've done a lot of the things that I'm going to talk to you about now, and because they've got into that profit habit. And they understand those components of profit as well, some of which I'm going to talk to you about. Now, I better get on with it, really, hadn't I? So, first component of profit, pricing. Pretty obvious one. And it's such an important one. 51% of agencies are planning on increasing pricing this year. To be honest, I'm amazed it's not more. Think about it. All of your other costs are going up. Your staff aren't coming to you asking for pay reductions. Your landlord isn't reducing the rent. Your suppliers, your freelancers certainly aren't reducing their rates. Everything's going up. So if you're not increasing your prices regularly, then your margins are getting squeezed and it's a road to ruin. So you can kind of look at this and say, well, 51% are planning on increasing. I worry about the other 49%. Seriously, if you're not planning on increasing your prices, then it's going to be a tricky year for you. I think you're going to get left behind. I'm going to talk about some of the other reasons to do that in a second, but I just wanted to touch on potentially some of the different ways you could be charging. We asked this question in the survey, and I guess there's no right or wrong answer here. I just wanted to give you kind of a little bit of background information about how each of these areas can lead you to making lots of money or potentially losing a lot of money. The first one has the potential to do both. Fixed rate charging. So you agree a scope of work up front in detail, ideally, and that includes a fixed fee. This is where you have the potential to make big bucks because you can charge value, not time. And that's when you can charge high fees for small amounts of time and make significant profits. However, this is also the area where you can lose the most amount of money because if you don't scope that properly, then the project will creep, overspill, and you'll end up spending far more time than you should do. I've seen agencies actually go bust after winning their biggest deals. Hooray, we've just won £100,000 deal. Well, that's great if you scoped it properly. But if that £100,000 deal is actually going to cost you £200,000 to deliver in time, then there's going to be problems. So it has the potential for huge upsides, but big downsides. And getting the project management right is absolutely key. Someone once told me, they said they never used to bother with scoping, and then they had a bit of a bad experience, and then they said, look, they've worked out that for every day they spend scoping up front, they saves them 2 days of pain further down the line. Well worth doing. So the next way of charging is agile. Quite a good method of doing it this way. So you've got an initial flexible scoping period followed by a fixed fee. Perhaps the initial scoping period says, look, we'll do £5,000 worth of work. Keep your tabs on how we're going, and then depending on what we've learned from that, how you work, how we work, we'll then provide a fixed fee thereafter. Time and materials, well, you're never going to lose money doing this because you bill for each hour that you work, but you're not going to get rich either. You see a lot of agencies, particularly in the early days, maybe white labeling themselves out to other agencies. It's a good way to guarantee, a small percentage of your income each month if you've got like retainers on set time and materials rates. But again, it's something you'd probably want to wean yourself off if you're serious about making significant profits in your agencies. The last two, high risk, but interesting that there's still some agencies out there that are using these. Licensing earned based on usage, and performance, where you get paid based on a business outcome. So the question we asked was, which one do you do most? Was the actual question, as opposed to which of these do you do in total? So just some thought around how you charge, and a blended approach is could be useful actually. If you can look at a project and go, okay, which method of pricing is likely to get me the biggest amount of profit? That flexibility, I think, will be a really, really good thing to adopt in your agency. This is a really hot topic. Should you charge for extras? People are split on this now. So on the left-hand side of the wheel, 57% said they either always or often charge for extras. On the right-hand side of the wheel, 43% said they never or rarely charge for extras. And when I've run events and we've had debates in the room about this, the room has literally been split between two very passionate arguments around, on the one side, on the right hand side, people saying we've got to do everything we can to keep the client happy, and on the left hand side, people saying, how on earth can you make money doing that? You end up working for free. And I've always lent towards the left hand side. I kind of figure it just makes sense. If you are doing stuff for free, you can't really expect to make serious money as an agency. You agree the scope. If it's outside the scope, you have to charge extra. And then I did some further analysis on this, and look what I found. There was a direct correlation between charging for extras and profit. I'll show you. Those that said they rarely charge for extras made an average net profit of 16%. Not bad. But not quite as good when you compare it to those that said they often charge for extras. Their net profit was 10% higher, 26%. What could you do with an extra 10% net profit in your business? What do you need to change as a result? Here's another stat. Those that always charge for extras had an average net profit of 30%. They were in the top 12% of agencies. If you're looking to increase your profit, this is a very, very good place to start. Increase the number of times you turn around to a client and say, that's outside of the scope of what we agreed previously. How would you feel about us charging you extra for it? The fee's this. Would you like us to do it? It's a really good habit to get into. It could be the difference between you being 16% and 26% when you fill out that survey next year. I think that little pie chart is going to look different next year. I sincerely hope so. Otherwise, I'm kind of wasting my breath. But you know what? I've been doing this long enough to know that I think agencies are cottoning on to the fact that you need to do this in order to grow. The tables have turned. We're well and truly out of the recession. There's a real buoyancy in the market, and now is the time to turn around to clients and say, look, it's outside the scope. Let's see what that pie chart looks like next year. So how much should you be charging? We asked agencies to fill in their average hourly rate, and this is what they said. And the mind just boggles at the 1% of agencies who are charging less than £25 an hour. Just astonishing. But anyway, have a think about where you sit on that continuum. What's your hourly rate? And I'll just wanted to share with you a little story, because I think pricing is a lot about confidence. And one of our clients, I was chatting to them, and they told me their average hourly rate was £40 an hour. I said, you are joking. You guys do some amazing work. I've seen what you do. You're way too cheap. And eventually persuaded them to up it. Not by much, to £50 an hour. We started off slowly. A couple of months later, came back. Any reaction to that, guys? No. Hasn't been effective. Conversion rate hasn't been effective. We picked up just the same amount of clients. Have not batted an eyelid. Cool. Let's up it to 60. What? Yeah, 60. Let's do it. So we went up to 60. And then a couple of months later, called up with them again. No reaction. You can probably guess the rest of the story. They're now at £125 an hour. And they've done that in 18 months. They've gone from working with regional businesses, sort of local businesses, couple of grand projects, and my goodness, having to work, night and day to satisfy the money conscious small business owner for their 2.5 grand project. They've gone from that to winning big blue chip clients and picking up 30, 40, 50 grand projects. Now, it's not simply just increasing your pricing. They have done a lot of marketing and targeted a particular sector and done very, very well. But do you know what? If they hadn't have increased their pricing, then some of these big blue chips would have looked at those proposals and gone, well, this is a bit cheap. What's wrong with it? So pricing is a lot about confidence, but I'd encourage you all to just try and move up those brackets. Whichever one you're in now, how can you increase it? The average for the UK is £86 an hour. And here's the thing. No one wants to be below the average, right? So all of you who are below, I reckon you're going to be increasing your pricing. If you are on or about the average, well, who wants to be average? Oh, hello, we're average. That's rubbish. You're probably going to be wanting to increasing your pricing too. And if you're above the average, well, bravo. But guess what? Everyone else is increasing their pricing, so you better had too, if you want to stay ahead of the game. Some further analysis around pricing. You can see I'm quite passionate about this. There is also a direct correlation between charge out rate and profitability. In fact, there is no agency in the country making 40% net profit or more that charges less than the average hourly rate. That's interesting, isn't it? So to be in the top 7% of agencies, so those making 40% profit or more, none of them charge less than £86 an hour. So if you do, you're going to find it really, really hard. It's time to increase your pricing. I think that will be higher next year. Let's hope so. So, we're an accountancy firm. It wouldn't be complete a webinar, would it, without a little bit about measuring profits. But it's so important. You can't manage what you can't measure. A really good thing to measure is this. It's your billing capacity. It's such a powerful calculation to do, and it's ever so easy to do. And I'll tell you why it's powerful in a second. But what you need to do is take your day rate and multiply it by the number of people in your team. Now, if you have multiple day rates for different people, you take each day rate, times it by the number of people at that day rate to create a total. If some of those people are 50% chargeable, 50% non-chargeable, you kind of pro-rata it down. But essentially, you'll be able to work out per day, and then if you times it by the days in your month, what your billing capacity is per month. So if everyone's in and working full tilt, what is your billing capacity? Work out that figure. And then go back over the last 12 months and see how many months you came even close to hitting that billing capacity figure. I promise you it will be scary. Well, it'll be none, but it will be scary. What will be scary is the gap between where you are and your billing capacity. And I really want you to think about how you can close that gap. A lot of that profitability will be leaking away in projects, but there might be other things that you can do to increase or to reduce that gap as well. Other things that you can measure. I'm a big fan of dashboards for agencies. We talk about this to our clients a lot. You don't need to be an accountant to understand your accounts. You don't need to pour through pages and pages of reports. But what is really helpful is to have a little dashboard of how your agency is doing, to understand the 3, 4, 5 key metrics that's going to give you the information you need to make decisions. And when you're creating your dashboards, have a think about not just lagging indicators, but leading indicators. So a lagging indicator tells you about something that has already happened. Money in the bank tells you about all the projects you've won and delivered and the clients have paid. It tells you nothing about what's going to happen in the future. Whereas a leading indicator would be, for example, the value of your sales pipeline or the number of pitches you've been applied for in the last month. That's a leading indicator, as it tells you what might happen in the future. Have a think about what's on your dashboard. Go back and speak to your accountant about how you can create one of those, because I think it's really, really important. Also have a think about how you can measure profit by client, by project, by service. So one of our clients said that by the way, you need to implement some project management software to do this. And again, I'll talk about that in a second. But prior to them doing this, they said that if they'd have been asked who their top client was, they'd have named the client that pays them the most amount of money. Oh yeah, it's those guys. We know who they are. They're our best client. Well, in actual fact, once they'd implemented the project management software, they worked out that despite paying them the most amount of money, they were spending way too much time on them. And therefore, this client was actually the least profitable client. And it forced them to take some action. It forced them to have some conversations with the client to reduce the scope of what they do, to increase the pricing, and also to have some better project management systems. It's a really important thing to do, that you can measure profit by client at the click of a button. And of course, to do that, you need to timesheet. Also, same applies to projects or even by service. Can you look at each of the services that you offer, and again, in the click of a button or two, work out how much profit you're making. Another great benchmark is your billing per head. I think 2 or 3 years ago, we ran a benchmark study where we looked at billing per head or gross profit per head effectively. And the top performing agencies are around about 100,000. It might be more now. The average back then was £63,000 billing per head. So if you've got 5 staff, the top performing agencies will be running at about £500,000 turnover. The bottom ones will be doing 5 times 63, whatever that is. I'll let you do the maths. So some further thoughts about measuring profit. I talked about project management software. There's been a really interesting shift in the number of users of project management software amongst agencies. 2013, 53% said yes, they were using it, about half. Look at it now. Over 3/4 are using project management software. It's almost a little bit odd if you're an agency not using it. What's happened in the last 2 years, and probably 3 or 4 years actually, this trend is developing, is the rise of cloud technology and just the accessibility of some wonderful new tools that have come on the market. If you go back 3 or 4 years, implementing project management software meant you had to buy a server for 5 or 10 grand. You had to spend a load of money on licenses. Oh, it's a big decision. And, it was only the larger agencies that really could make that investment. Well, now you can go online right now, set yourself up with a demo in about 5 minutes and try it free for a month. How cool is that? It's amazing. And what that's meant is there's loads of new products on the market that you can try, implement, and use that make a massive difference to your agency. Here's what our survey said that people are using, or what people said they were using in our survey. The really interesting one for me here is this other box at the bottom. 16% of the 300 that completed it said other. It's around about sort of 40 to 45 other, just completely different software packages in there. As I said, there's new ones springing up all the time. So take a look at what's out there. Try these free trials. Find something that works for you. If you use, the other thing is, if you're using a system that you've had for a few years, and it's not quite working for you, or people find the timesheeting functionality a pain, or the reporting's not quite right, have a look again, because the world's moved on and there's lots of options out there. Here are some of the top ones that people use. I encourage you to take a look at these on this list, and a whole heap of other stuff as well. Ask around. There's lots of good advice out there. Other technology to help. Well, if you've known about WOW for a little while, it'd be no surprise to see this logo on our screen. Xero is a cloud accounting software. Basically, it's I don't know. If you're still using Sage, and here's the crazy thing, 21% of people are still using Sage. It's a little bit like using a typewriter when everyone else is using emails. I'm sorry for anyone I'm not sorry for anyone for Sage listening. This is really important stuff. 49% of agencies now use Xero. I really worry about the 21% still on Sage and QuickBooks. So anyone who's not using cloud technology, you've got a dusty old machine in the corner that can only be used and probably deciphered by your bookkeeper or an accountant, whereas Xero's online has bank feeds automatically, is really easy to use, got some great reporting, links to hundreds of other apps that can make a massive difference to your business. It quite simply is the future, and unfortunately Sage is the typewriter of the past. So if you're using one of these legacy systems, I definitely recommend you take a look at Xero. The final stat I just wanted to share with you. Oh, by the way, on the Xero thing, if you want us to demo how it would work for you, just get in touch with us. We can definitely help. The final stat I just want to share with you was something that I discovered towards the tail end of my research. So, it was really fun looking at this data. It was really fun trying to spot trends. And there was one particular one I had a little bit of fun with. So I worked out what the average net profit was. 16.3% was the average net profit for agencies. Not bad, I thought. Higher than I thought, actually. And then I thought, I wonder what that figure would be for WOW clients. So I segmented all the WOW clients out and run a report, and look at that. The average net profit for WOW clients was 24.5%. So a rise of 8.2% there, higher than the average, which we're more than happy to take full credit for. So if you would like to increase profit in your agency, you know what to do now. We'd love you to get in touch. There's 2 ways you can get in touch with us. Do you know what? You don't even need to change accountants to work with us. So we offer agency profitability reviews where we can go in as a one-off piece of consultancy, understand more about your business, and very quickly spot opportunities to help you make more profit. It's a really good way for us to get to know each other, for you to test us out, and for us to make a massive difference. We will make you more money as a result of that exercise. So if you would like to find out more about that, or do you know what, you're sat there thinking, oh man, my accountant doesn't talk to me about this stuff, I want one that does, then give us a call, drop us an email, and we'd love to help. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.